You're tuned in to Shop Talk, presented by RaceOnTexas.com. Here's your host, Caleb McFarland.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for joining us here on episode 3 of Shop Talk. Joining us, championship sprint car team out of Vidor, Texas, old Harris Racing. We've got Jacob and Tyler Harris and the old parafamilias Mark Harris, and it's great to have y'all out here. And
yeah, it's good to be with you, man. I appreciate you coming out and doing this with us. It's a cool deal y'all got going on.
Yeah, it's a little cold in the shop, the cool front we had come through, but can't beat it when you got a good hot bowl of chili and chili bowl on TV, relaxing and doing a little bit of off-season work.
Yeah, it's too cold to be outside in the shop right now unless the heater's on. I told them a while ago there ain't nothing outside worth going outside for in this weather.
Well, there could be. Working on getting cars ready. Just if you run out of fuel in the heater, you just got to suck it up, Buttercup. Work's got to get done one way or the other.
You got to burn the methanol in the drain pan.
I can use up all the old methanol, make a heater during the wintertime.
And a little bit of extra methanol, maybe because we didn't have a lot of races in 2020, and it really wasn't. I guess we could argue and say the season that Harris Racing was kind of looking for.
Yeah, we didn't get to do a whole lot of racing. We did get to do the big races that we always hope to make, the Eagle Nationals, the big stuff like that. But we usually try to do more racing than we did in 2020. It didn't, but it wasn't just us. It was, teams all over the country didn't get to do a whole lot of racing, and we suffered from it too.
And, Mark, I talked with y'all a little bit here during the season, and, normally it's just the boys that are out there running and getting in it and running every single week, running for points. But this year you made more of a conscious effort to race with them, and you actually finished in the top 10 in points in the Southern United Sprint Car Series. And that's not too bad to kind of come out of a racing every now and again to say, well, I'll start racing a little bit more often with them.
Yeah, we had a good time. And basically, we just put a car together that Jacob used to race, and then we had a spare motor that I built years ago that we freshened up and put it back in there. And I just decided we would go have a little fun and see if I could show these boys a little bit how to do it. But for the most part, they usually show me. But we had a good time, and I actually did outrun them a couple races this year, so that made me feel good. And I also got to rag them a little bit during the week.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy to rag them when they're practicing gymnastics and aerobatics, Tyler. And, it's kind of one of those kind of fun things that, I got to ask. And, I talk to a lot of drivers every now and again about things like this. But I'm curious to know, Tyler, as much air time as you got doing the big air for X Games this season, how do you just kind of get back in the car and just, flipping hot lap, that just happened in Chili Bowl. Flipping heat race and just climb back in it, get it fixed, and just put it all in the back burner, in the feature, and just keep going.
Yeah, well, the last one there at Devil's Bowl was a little rough for me. Not that any of them were very smooth, but that's typically how I end up, it seems like, out of everybody in the team. But, we have a really good team, and we put a lot of money into it and a lot of time and effort, and to be able to go back out there and throw a car back together and run the feature, that's, to me that says a lot about, the stuff we have and the caliber of the team we got. And, I'm thankful for being able to be in this position.
Yeah, and
that night in Devil's Bowl, we had the car back together for him before he got out of the ambulance. So I don't know if he just took too long in the ambulance or we were quick on the wrenches, but it worked out.
Yeah, I was stumbling out of the ambulance and they're throwing my car back together, and I'm like, is there anything left of it? And they're like, yeah, we're going to put you in the A-main. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Then after we got through putting the car together, I said, well, the car's ready, but I don't know if the driver is.
We'll find out come A-main time.
I know, right? It's kind of one of those things that just it's going to be a coin flip. Put it behind him and say, well, we know what not to do, or at least we know not who to drive by and try to pass in certain positions. But, it's racing. It's part of it when it gets down to it. But, Tyler, you came off of a great run last year in 2019, picking up the SUS Points Championship, and then, just really kind of didn't have the year you were looking for. But, like you said, you just kind of get back in it and just keep doing it, put it behind you. And that's what a lot of people could argue that makes one of the facets of dirt track racing so great is overcoming adversity week in and week out, and sometimes in between each race having to deal with different aspects that, would normally be a setback, but, having the experience in the back pocket is you just got to just keep moving forward.
Yeah, and I would say the competition around here locally has definitely gotten better and better throughout the years, and it's just everybody just tries so hard for a win, and the competition is just really stiff, and to be able to win a race around here now is honestly you're saying you did something if you can win, because everybody's putting their all into it, it seems like now.
Yeah, and I remember when I first started getting into racing over at Golden Triangle Raceway Park in Beaumont, you were just now getting out of a junior mini, and I don't know about you, but that makes me feel old. I mean, I don't know how it makes you feel, Mark, but it makes me feel pretty old. But older. And it's kind of one of those fun things to get to see drivers, that I remember watching winning races in other classes when they were first starting out and progressing up and, becoming points champions and running in the top 10, top 5 week in and week out. But, it's one of those things, every racing story has to start somewhere. And with that, Mark, how'd you get into it? I mean, you've got a 360 sprint car points championship, some mini modified championships, but where did it all start? Like, what made you want to just start wrenching and driving fast?
Joe Graham, he started, when I was a kid, I was probably 15 years old. Joe Graham him and his family lived right down the road. He raced, his wife raced, his son raced, his nephew raced. So they kind of, we become friends, and my dad ended up buying a mini modified, and he raced it for a little while, and he seen that I kind of wanted to get into it and race, so he kind of let me take over the wheel, and he built him another car, and it just kind of went from there. We raced mini modifieds for, probably 5 years. Kind of ventured off from that, went into the non-wing sprint cars, back when they called them Texas Super Sprinters. They ran the 302 cubic inch rule, which was basically, Chevrolet 302 engines, which were kind of far and few between, but that was the rules. They ran carburetors on gasoline, and went from that to the 360 sprints, which was basically what ASC is kind of derived from the 360 NCRA sprints. They were steel-headed motors, same cubic inches and all, but kind of went from there, and then kind of got out for a little while, then got back into it again with these boys because they were getting old enough to race.
Yeah, and not joining us this evening, Ben Harris. I remember watching you and Ben run in the stock cars out there with in Beaumont with the hobby stocks. Thanks. And, eventually, if I remember right, Jacob and Tyler, y'all moved up from the junior mini stocks into running hobby stocks, right? And then shifted into more open wheel.
Yeah, I started off in the pure stocks racing with my older brother Ben, and boy, he put a whooping on me. My very first lap in a race car on a dirt track. I went on the track entrance, went down the front straightaway into turn 1, and coming out of turn 2, I smacked the wall, and that was my first lap.
And you learned early on that the wall does not move, huh?
Well, yeah, and so I pulled off the track, and I guess Dad said, well, I guess it's time to get you a car after I tore up my brother's car. So I got out there with a porta pound, we fixed his car, and I guess that was when we first started looking for my first pure stock, and I ran my first season. And my older brother Ben, he was lighting the world on fire in the pure stock class in Beaumont, and seemed like he won just about every race my first season, and he lapped me just about every race that first season. So it was a rough start to my racing career, but we made it through it.
So how'd that kind of translate to, coming back home after the races and that week in the shop of, getting lapped every week by him? I mean, was he ever helping you out, or just saying, hey, look, when I'm coming, just get out of the way?
No, yeah, he would try to help me out. But there was, I mean, every time he would lap me and he was the first one to lap me, I'd follow right behind him and just kind of start blocking. But
The secrets come out, huh?
Yeah, I remember one time the dude that finished second called me out on it, and I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, dude. But yeah, so I'd try to block for him when I had the chance.
That's kind of why we I always remember one of the speeches that our flagman would give at Beaumont back when I was announcing the drivers' meeting. He'd always say, you get the blue and yellow flag. It means that there's a race going on and you're not in it. Well, you weren't in it to a competitive sense, but you were still there, though.
I was in it.
But and then you segued into mini sprints for a little while, running with the I think it was
Lone Star 600s.
Yeah, the Lone Star 600s. And then I remember one play day, you let Tyler drive your car. And that was when we had a play day. It was real wet, so everyone was out in the front parking lot because the pits were too muddy. And I remember listening to the speech of you giving him, kind of about how to shift, what gear to be in. And then he pulls back in the infield. It's like, yeah, no, you did too good, kind of deal. Because, it was a not necessarily a learning curve from you going from closed wheel to open wheel, but it was a big dynamic shift. I mean, for both y'all. I mean, especially first time in it, huh, Tyler? I mean, just kind of having to just figure out how to make it work, and it's going to turn different and react a lot different than what the pure stocks and hobby stocks would.
Yeah, going from a big heavy car to something small and that's very your maneuverability is completely different and
like quicker, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Power to weight ratio.
Yeah, it was way different, but to me it was a lot funner. Obviously you're going a lot faster and in such a small car, and especially that low to the ground, you feel like you're flying around there, and you really are flying around there. But we transitioning from that was pretty different, but we had a blast, and it was a good stepping stone into what we're doing now. So I think we learned a lot.
So what would you say would be that stepping stone and that pinnacle moment of, hey, let's get these boys in a 305. I mean, I know that Jacob ran a few races in your car, like when ASCS would come to town or when the 305s would be running in Beaumont. But, what would you say would be that pinnacle decision moment of he can do this? He can hold his own in a sprint car.
Well, I don't really think there's really a exact time. I think that the more laps you can run in a car, and I think that's either, whenever it comes to dirt track racing, it's kind of like you either see the ability in them or you don't see it at all. And if you don't see it within a year or two's racing, then it's probably better to get a boat and go fishing. But if you see potential in a driver and a driver progresses over a few years period of time and you see maturity, then you're not as you're more apt to kind of loosen the reins a little bit on them.
Right.
And I haven't reached that point with Tyler yet because I don't really think he don't have a governor. He's getting better. When I watch him race, I ain't gonna lie, Tyler scares the heck out of me when I watch him because he does stuff in there that most normal people wouldn't do.
Well, but, Tyler's not normal. We all know that. He's
not normal. And Jacob, he's probably more like me. He's a little bit more conservative. But I really don't want him to be conservative. I want him to race to their maximum potential.
Right.
And not worry about, if I put it up here next to the fence running, 100 miles an hour, I could hit the wall. Well, sometimes you have to put it up there around the fence to run up front. And I don't want him to ever have that fear that, if I try it, it's not going to work. I'll roll the dice, and I want him to take the chance that it'll, because we don't pull out on the racetrack to run second.
That's exactly right.
So,
but I guess that also kind of answers why there's a bass boat parked out front of the shop, just in case, well, you know what, y'all have had enough of this. We're going to go fishing this weekend instead of going racing. and like you say, Tyler's a little bit more on the aggressive side. I mean, I remember a few races at 105 Speedway in Cleveland early on in 2019, if I remember right. Y'all both, Jacob, Tyler, y'all were both battling for position, and I think I caught it on camera from the infield of a massive slide job in 3 and 4 for the race lead. Like, Tyler, you were out front, holding it running the top, man, just letting the big dog eat, where I like to keep the good scotch on the top shelf. And, and out of nowhere, Jacob just went from Mr. Conservative to I'm going for it, and barely cleared the slide job. I'd say probably about a foot or two from what it looked like on the cockpit.
Yeah, that race was that's probably the most memorable race of my career, and he just about got me back on the last lap when I turned 4. So he was leading the race. He had it won, and I guess I just found a little bit more, reeled him in, and pulled that slider on him. And I knew that I was gonna clear him barely, but he was gonna see that it was me, so that he'd take it easy on me. And so I cleared him, and we kept running, and man, we got down to the last few laps, and I started to hear somebody behind me again. I said, surely he ain't catching me, because I'm flat out on the top. I'm thinking ain't nobody catching me. And I hear somebody coming, and then so he found a line on the bottom. I didn't know it was there.
Right.
And if there's a line on the track that's faster than the top, Tyler's gonna find it. He's gonna move around if he's behind you. And he showed me his nose. He coming out of turn 4 on the last lap, he was ahead of me.
Wow.
But I had enough momentum to pull back past him.
Had that drive off the top. Yeah.
He was ahead coming out of turn 4, but when we got to the finish line, I barely nosed him. So
there's one thing about losing and getting second to somebody, but when it's your own brother, it's like, oh, there's that little bit more drive that you don't want to go home hearing that.
Yeah, and that was the I want to say that was the opening week of the SUS season that year.
19.
And yeah, I double checked some notes when Mark was talking earlier, and that was you won the IMCA championship on that, not the SUS championship. Right. That one went to Rod Craddock, if I remember right. Yep. Mental note there, you always got to make sure your facts are right, and correct yourself when you're wrong. You got to be able to say, well, I had that wrong, but and that's kind of one of those things is it sets the tone for that year, because 2019 that was just that was, I'd say, arguably, from what I remember from ever watching y'all race, that was, I'd say, the best year of Harris Racing as far as you two guys running in the 305 class. I mean, consistent top 5s, top 3s. I don't remember of any race that y'all might have had one that was outside of a top 10, but it was always kind of one of those competitive races in weeks after week after week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. So yeah, 2019 was our best year yet. But man, I think the thing that did it for us was just taking a step back and looking at the program and making sure because shocks is a huge deal.
Right.
Stepping back and looking at our shock program, we stepped it up. Tyler went out and bought a new shock package with Momentum racing suspensions. Brad Bennett, man, he's got us set up pretty good. We've been working with him. He's been helping us out, getting everything set up, and he's been helping us out a bunch. 2019 really showed, and 2020 really showed at Nationals. We did a lot better at Nationals this year than we have in years past, and really it's all a testament to Brad at Momentum helping us out and giving us all the right info we needed that we didn't. We changed our setups 100% opposite of what we used to do, and
right.
It's working.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things, definition of insanity is repeating the same mistake, expecting a different result. Well, you weren't necessarily making mistakes. You just weren't doing as good as you could have. So, let's just change things up and just kind of rework it and restart from setups and, go from there. And that's one of those things that, it's always discussed that, that races are won in the shop. And, y'all took the time to find that out and kind of hit that groove and know that, yeah, you can take a step back, reevaluate to keep moving forward and gain that success.
And what's amazing in sprint car racing is the theory and the design of the race cars hasn't changed over the years. I mean, when I started racing sprint cars back in 1986, I think it was, nothing has really changed other than a few of the bar heights maybe have changed a little bit. Maybe motor angles changed some. But the biggest part that's changed is the components that you bolt on. Chassis wise, not a whole bunch of differences, but components are much different. Like Jacob was saying earlier, shock packages is a major key, and there might be nights where we don't turn one adjuster on the car as far as chassis wedge and adjustments, but shocks, we work on them shocks all night long. Stagger, something we work on all night long is stagger. But the basic adjustments, man, back in the day we used to screw on them bolts. I mean, we'd come in after every race and we'd be screwing on a bolt trying to make it do something, and now it's just the shock package is a real big thing now.
And Tyler, Jacob, he gave you a lot of credit on going out and getting that connection with momentum suspensions, and so what drove you to go in that direction and into that specific brand, I guess you could say?
Well, Jacob had started running them to begin with, and he became kind of close with Brad and talking on setups and stuff, and he seemed to be doing really good, and he told me a lot of good stuff about Brad and how he was helping him out and all this other stuff, and it's like, man, that's a lot of money for some shocks, I said, but if it works that well, and if he's he's a great guy and he helped him out, so I decided I'll save up some money and I'll go ahead and make this purchase and see what they're really all about, and so I did that, and it's definitely helped me out a lot because it's like everybody's been saying, shocks is a big deal. I mean, not that that's the only thing that makes you go fast, but it's pretty big now.
Get a little bit of extra talking courage there. It's all right because we don't really need liquid courage is it's not a good thing to have when you're going to climb in a race car, but when you're racing all season, you're not really doing a lot of talking. I guess sometimes you need that little extra confidence boost. But speaking of confidence, that's kind of one thing that'll make a big difference. Is the mental game of it. Is knowing that you can get out there and, like you say, Mark, is be able to have that confidence to just put it up there on the wall and be able to trust it and make sure that that you can do it. And I've seen y'all run a lot of races where you'll be sitting there right around the tractor tires or all the way up with the tail tank barely almost scraping the wall. So what would you say out of all your experiences of racing in your own career and then also watching the boys grow up and doing it, what would you say is like one of the biggest confidence boosters that you could have as far as knowing what you can do in your car?
I think the biggest confidence booster would be probably just number one from the people you're around that are positive and don't speak negative. And
right.
That's kind of one of the things that we try to implement is be positive. Always has a positive note on what you're doing, and make sure that they know that when they go out there that they got it. And I always tell them, I said, you got this, the car's good. I'll always reassure them that before we go, I said, I think the car's good. We're good to go. Even if I think we might be off a little bit, I still tell them we're good. Yeah. Because a lot of times the car's not going to be perfect, but they'll have to find a way to make it work.
Right, right.
It's hard to make them perfect every time, but just encouragement. They gotta. If you don't have confidence in your car and yourself, putting it up next to the fence, 2 foot, 3 foot off the wall, whatever it is, because like you say, sometimes that's where you got to put it to run it, and because there's a lot of people that won't go up there, and anybody can run the bottom. I mean, I've tore up a lot of front axles on tractor tires, but so has Jacob and Tyler. They have too. But anyway,
they'll reach out there and grab you.
They will reach out there and grab you for sure. But I mean, you just have to. It's got to be a total team effort. It doesn't just one person. They're the driver. They're the one that controls it. But the preparation during the week, the staying on top of things at the track, making sure. Everybody has their own job. Everybody measures stagger, and certain people put fuel in, and everybody has their own job. They know what to do. The shocks, so they have to have nitrogen put in them, You know, so and we got people. You know, TJ and Stephen Lane. You know, they're always helping us out there every week, and Heath McClendon and Tangi Constance. You know, every so often when he gets a chance, he'll come out there and give us a hand. And of course, we got my Uncle Bob also. He helps in a lot of ways. I mean, if there's something that needs machining or because he has basically has his own machine shop. Basically, I mean, he can do whatever we need to do if we need something, you know, made.
Nice. That's one of those things that's very good to have, you know, on hand and have that access to, is be able to get that, you know, that quick turnaround instead of having to wait on somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
And you know, and of course, you know, from the financial standpoint too, we got help. There's, you know, we got of course HMB, Harris Muffler and Brake. They do probably 75% of the financial part of it. And then we got Marsh Waterproofing. They help us out big time every year. They you know, put in help us out a lot financially each year. And then you got Remax with Holly Petrie,
Yep,
provider.
yep.
She helps us out. Stephen Lane, he helps us out. He buys us tires every so often. And TJ, he helps us, you know, on some stuff, you know, petroleum stuff, fluids, and what have you, every so often. So yeah, everybody kind of pitches in, you know. Southeast Texas fish tanks, you know, they help us out.
Christy Lovell.
Christy Lovell with Trackside Motorsports. I mean, she'll give us a drum of fuel ever so often, and sometimes I'll get my bill and I'll say, well, this ain't right. She'll say, yes, it is.
That's
I said, yes, ma'am, thank you.
And you know, I kind of laugh. You know, Jacob over there having the whisper. You know, we always kind of joke around is. You know, every now and again, Christy, like when y'all are getting ready to go to Eagle, she's like, yeah, they just put an order in. I said, well, you know, what's the balance? And she's like, well, okay. I said, well, you know, we'll move it down some. She's like, are you sure? I said, yeah, that's fine. And, you know, I got to credit, you know, Steve Cape on, you know, coming up with the name. Anyone that's seen the Harris Muffler and Brake hashtag, excuse me, rewind, I digress. The Harris Muffler and Brake, wow. Sorry, Harris Racing, there it is. The Harris Racing Facebook page, you know, and seeing the posts sometimes, you know, hashtag Flying Fish Tank. Announcer Steve Cape came up with that one to go with the aquarium company, and I was kind of like surprised. I was like, you know, Steve, that was pretty good. And, you know, I think that was one of y'all's first races of the 2019 season when y'all were in, I think up at Manny, and I was like, well, I like it, Steve. That's pretty good. And so that's kind of one of those things that just stuck as far as all the other race teams that company's involved with. Like, you can kind of start seeing a building of you know, that hashtag of Flying Fish Tanks. And, you know, Mark, you made a very good point about, you know, all the people that come together to make it happen, both manually and monetarily. And, you know, two of the guys that work with the team. They're here sitting here watching the Chili Bowl on the TV, and you know, and it's really cool to kind of watch the team progress, you know, from a few years back to just kind of pretty much being y'all and Heath to now, you know, getting 2-3 other guys involved, and you know, almost pretty much every car has a crewman that's going to be your push driver. That's going to be the one to help you with setup and things like that. And you know, Mark, you're smiling. What?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, we got certain people do certain things, but sometimes, you know, we do forget sometimes, you know. So I know just one little small story I was thinking about. When we went to the Nationals last year, we go out for hot laps for the very first hot lap session when we get there, and it's not even race day yet. This is just a hot lap day. So we go out to our hot lap.
Let me tell this story.
Wait a minute, let Jacob tell the story.
So we were all out there. This is the biggest race of the year.
The peanut
for us.
gallery in the back, our peanut gallery behind us, they're getting a good cackling at this thing here too.
We go out there, and it's the first day. It's all this is just a hot lap day and race of champions heat race. But we're out there, my first time on the track, and it's not, your nerves are going crazy because you know you're in Nebraska with the baddest dudes in the country in 305s, and you're just expecting something bad to happen, and but you come prepared. So we get out there and we're running hot laps, and I get about 3 laps in, and the motor starts to sputter and fall on its face, and makes some god awful noises. I'm like, man, what in the world is going on? And it takes back off and it stops and the motor just stalls out and just bull. And I mean, it ain't doing nothing. Like, dude, we just grenaded a motor on the first day of nationals. We're about to have to swap motors. So you're thinking the worst. It's the worst case scenario is going to happen. So I get pushed in and I'm freaking out in my helmet. I get back to the pit area. I'm like, pull the hood. We got to swap motors. Pull the oil filter. See if there's any shavings in it. And so they start pulling the hood and pulling the oil filter. Man, it looks good. I'm walking around the car. Man, what is going on with this thing? Why won't it run? And so I'm walking around. I'm like, you know what? Let me check fuel.
Oh.
I pull the fuel cap off, shine a flashlight in there. There ain't a drop of fuel in that car. So we just ran out of fuel on the first lap on the first day of the nationals, and dude, it was the biggest scare of my life.
What a great first impression for everybody to be there that week.
So for the rest of the week, Steven walked around with the fuel stick in his hand to measure fuel in every car. I think he took a shower with it the first night. Yeah. So it hasn't happened again since then. Every time we go out, he tells us, you got 13.5 gallons in your car. He knows exactly how much fuel we got. So it was a learning experience.
That's there's a funny story from a good friend of mine that y'all know the Bakers. His dad was telling a story back one time. Yeah, when I was helping on their crew team back when we were in college, and they had an incident where somebody left they were filling up the fuel cell, a blue shop towel covered up the inlet, and that's kind of one of those kind of things of it happens. But once it happens, you learn from that mistake, and now you know exactly how many gallons to the decimal that's going to be in your tank. And Tyler, y'all have had some pretty good runs up there at Eagle. Jacob just mentioned how stiff that competition is, but yet y'all always go in there with the mindset of, it's just another race. We're not running against all these other guys. It's just stay focused, run our program, and do our thing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, everyone tries not to let it get to their head and just, do your own thing and just, try to, run your best laps you can and just, try your hardest just like you would any other week. But, yeah, sometimes when you see names and you're like, yeah, I know these are top guys and these are guys that have won championships and national levels and stuff, but you just don't let it get to your head. You just run the best you can, and it's a lot of fun up there. Really, I mean, you're up there to race and you're up there to do good, and you don't want to disappoint for your hometown and everything, but really you have a lot of good fun time up there. I mean, it's a blast. Like, the facility up there is just top notch, and the way it's ran, like, there's not a second wasted, and you don't feel rushed about anything, but it's just everything just flows perfectly, and it's you have a real good time, even though you're racing like nonstop and you're constantly going to staging, but you still have a great time up there, and it's a blast. I mean, every year I look forward to it. We have a lot of fun.
So talking about looking forward to things, so what are some of the goals that y'all have on the radar for 2021? Obviously, race as much as possible, despite what that thing called the Rona is going to do this year. But, obviously, we'll say finish in the top 3 in the SUS, if not win it. But, any other kind of particular goals that y'all have outside of just the obvious of we're going to win the championship?
Yeah. No, for 21, we just we're going to do some traveling, I think. Try to get some different tracks under our belts. Do some, maybe go up to Oklahoma, some Louisiana, some North Texas, and, still race right here at home, but do some traveling as well. And really, just like Tyler said, man, our the big race of the year that we look forward to is Nebraska. We got to go up there and see our boy Zach. He's a local. He's a local we met last year, and man, he is a heck of a time. And you could be eating breakfast with him. You're gonna be having a good time. You could just tore your car up, and he comes out to the pit, and you're gonna be having a good time. It don't matter. Man, I met him one night. We was at the track. It's a party after when the races are over, and we was out there trying to find a shower, and he
Carly's over there looking for credit on that. I mean,
yeah, I think Carly found him. But yeah, he's just a cool guy. We met him like the first night of nationals this year, and from the first night all through the week, he was over hanging out with us after the races, and he's a cool dude. So, but yeah, so 21 we plan on doing some traveling and nationals.
They also we acquired a couple 360 motors from Kyle Turner. He used to run ASCS, and he had some stuff, and we picked up some stuff from him. So we got one of the 360 motors over at Allard, the guy that builds our 305 engines, and we got another 360 motor here that we'd run years past that we're updating it to ASCS and dry sump and all that good stuff. So we're probably going to try to run a few 360 races, and probably, like Jacob said, venture up toward the Dallas way, maybe Devil's Bowl, and I think there's a Monarch Speedway up there around Waxahachie.
Yep.
Is that correct, or somewhere up that way? But anyway, maybe venture off to some of them places and run some 360 races, maybe with the Sprint Bandits and whatever, because and still support the 305s here, the SUS series, because Randy Waller, he's a good promoter, good guy. We believe in him. He does what's best for sprint car racing here.
Absolutely.
So we're going to support them as well. But I might even run every now and then this year.
Just to kind of show them how it's done again, because you finished higher in points than what they did this year. Let's go ahead and point that one out too.
Yeah, they decided they wanted to go watch a race over in Lone Star Speedway up in Kilgore. They wanted to go watch the
Outlaws,
the All-Star races. So they went up there and watched.
That's right, All-Stars.
And I said, well, y'all go up there and watch with them, and I'm gonna go race at Cotton Bowl. So I went to Cotton Bowl and raced. So I kind of upped one on them there. So. But anyway, it was fun, and I'll probably race I'll race maybe a couple races next year, but nothing too much, because Jacob's getting a new chassis this year, and Tyler's going to acquire Jacob's old chassis, and then when Tyler acquires his old chassis, then I'll probably acquire Tyler's old chassis. So we'll probably throw something together and maybe race a little bit, but not a whole bunch.
So you mentioned 360s and running up north. Any idea, maybe scope of trying to jump in and run with the national tour guys of the ASCS when they make that little dip up there to North Texas?
Yeah, Jacob and Tyler might, yeah. But as far as me, no.
No. Well, so Tyler, what would you say some of your goals would be for 2021? I mean, Jacob pretty summed it up pretty much. We're going to travel. And your dad says, well, we're going to run some 360 stuff. And you're just kind of, well, okay.
Well, when that trailer pulls out, he'll be right in the truck going with it.
Well, I guess the first goal would be to win a race this season.
That's a good goal to have.
Yeah.
Because if I remember, y'all went on a dry spell this year, right? No, neither one of y'all won a race, huh?
I thought you said we weren't going to talk about that, Caleb.
Well, I didn't necessarily say that, but your brother pointed that out. But I joked with y'all in the past on that, and it's kind of one of those things that, really kind of, we kind of back to it. It just kind of didn't go the way that y'all would have wanted or hoped. But, a lot of times you're in that contention, and, you try to have to make that move and try to gain that position, and sometimes it just doesn't go the way that you want it to, because you're not really around. You don't get to race next to your brother every week, so it's not like you can trust and know where he's going to go and how he's going to handle that car. So it's just kind of one of those. Like I tell other friends of mine when they ask about racing stuff, I'm like, well, it all depends on a good heat race. You have a good heat race, if you have a good redraw, set yourself up for success. Yeah. But it really sounds like y'all have a really good game plan for 2021, and that's what, that's one of the things that it all starts with, is 1, to have a plan, 2, to write it down, and 3, to stick to it and make it happen. And y'all sound like y'all are on the way to getting that going, and a lot of success and well wishes for y'all for the 360 shows up in North Texas, as well as everything with the SUS series. And I want to thank y'all for letting Race on Texas come and invade the shop of Harris Racing and eat some chili and watch some Chili Bowl racing as that kicks off here, this Monday night. Again, episode, we're going to be coming out tomorrow morning with it. And so, it's really cool to kind of have, this kind of, I guess you could say, monumental of a racing monumental racing event of the Chili Bowl going on right now. And, while I got you, y'all be the only ones that get to have your opinion on this as far as a podcast episode goes. So who's your pick for Saturday night? Who's going to win it?
I'm thinking, I don't know. There's so much good talent in Chili Bowl, but I'm thinking Bodie Kofoid, man. I've been watching him for a couple of years now, and I think it's his year, man. I'm rooting for him. He's a young up and comer, and I think he's the next one to dethrone the Larson Bell show. So I think that's what I'm pulling for this year.
Shots fired. Looking for a dethroning. What do you got, Tyler? Who are you picking?
I'm just gonna have to go with Larson on this one.
Okay, we're gonna go with the easy and obvious. He's been on a tear in 2020, so see if he can carry it to this year. Huh?
Larson's a pretty easy pick, but I would probably say Tyler Courtney.
Okay, go with Sunshine. All right, I like that.
We've been watching tonight. He's been looking real good. He's won every race he started. So
yeah, and he had a pretty good run in the shootout, a week or so ago. So.
Although I do have to say, I have been keeping my eye on that B-51. That B-51, Johnny Brown out of Mauriceville, Texas. He's making his third run at the Chili Bowl, and he's been putting a lot of time and effort in that car of his, and it's a one-of-a-kind car, and so that's who we're pulling for the local boy. But he's been looking good out there, so yeah, gotta keep your eye on him.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's a long week, so there's no telling how things are going to shape up, and all it takes is a good finish in your heat and your qualifiers to be able to set yourself up for success into Saturday. And we're going to table it. We're going to never mind. Mark's grabbing the mic. He says I'm not done yet.
We did actually forget some people earlier that I kind of put some plugs in, like for Marsh waterproofing and what have you, and also got Mike and Mike Collier, Glenda Collier. Most people in the dirt track world know him as Limey.
Yep.
And they've helped us out in the past, and he's always come through for us and helped us. And Bruce Griffith, he's helped us. He helped us get to the Nationals a year before last. He came up and just said, "Hey, I'm going to help y'all with some fuel money." And
that's awesome.
Gave us some fuel money to get there. So there's a lot of people that's behind the scenes that's helped us get to where we're at. Glenn's Express Collision out of Beaumont with it's Michael Holcomb.
Keeps the cars looking good.
He paints for us and he takes care of us when we need stuff. So, give a big shout out to him. And the main people that we haven't mentioned that we need to really thank is Michelle Harris and Carly Harris. Those are the two people that kind of take care of things each week, and we all know that.
Yeah,
everybody's scared to say it.
They keep y'all in line.
They keep the helmets clean, the mud on the mud off on the cars, and keep the food on the table when we get ready to go eat inside the trailer, and they take care of everybody at the racetrack.
Yep.
If you want to eat, and HMB Racing is there, come on over to the 24 and 26 trailer. We will give you something to eat.
I can attest to that. There's a really good house recipe for some cheese dip. I can't lie. I've dabbled in a little bit of that before, and while we've got a minute to kind of give a little recognition, Mark, you threw out that name of old Carly Harris. That's the first time I've got to say it before, and Jacob, you went and got hitched in November, and that was one of the running jokes last season is you're going to finally have a lifetime tear-off putter on her.
Yeah, we went and sealed the deal, so I guess you could say I did get one win in 2020.
One more win than your brother, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. We actually had the sprint car at the wedding, so that was my only request for the wedding. We put the sprint car out on display, so it was pretty cool. It was perfect.
Well, that's good. It's always nice when the wedding day goes without a hitch and it's just all nice and smooth. And less drama makes it even more enjoyable, as I've been told from other people's nuptial gatherings. But we're going to end on that high note of talking about and celebrating a marriage and with the positivity of looking forward to 2021. And thank y'all again for letting me come out here and being featured on Race on Texas Shop Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having us, man. It's been a blast, cutting up and shooting the bull and watching some chili bowl, eating some chili, and talking racing all night. It's been a blast.
That's one thing that anytime around y'all, there's always going to be some kind of cutting up, and that's always a good guarantee. So, well, folks, in the meantime, y'all got any questions, comments, concerns? As always, be sure to shoot us over an email or a message for Race on Texas. Anybody you want us to talk to or interview or hear from, we'll try to do our best to make it happen. And as always, when I end anything and when I'm behind the mic, I am Caleb McFarland. Thank you and good night.